helping people who are struggling at the end of this. And it's not normal that we have a president who
I'm just
has
sitting here listening to Cory Booker
so much so, I've never
question
seen something like this
Supreme
in my
Court
lifetime. There was
nominee
former cabinet members.
Amy Coney. I want y'all to listen in. He's going to get to a point, and that's where I'm going to take off and have some analysis on what he's saying. So listen to this.
General Mattis, who served as our Secretary of Defense, went as far as to say, a man who has been very reserved in his comments, that Donald Trump is a danger to our democracy. We are at a time that the legitimacy of our institutions are at stake. And it's not normal that the president would further cast a shadow over your nomination as well as the independence of the court by saying he would only nominate justices who would tear down Roe v. Wade, who would overturn ACA. And it's not normal amidst this all, and again, something that I find hard to believe that we're talking about, is that we have a president who cannot commit himself to the peaceful transfer of power. Now, in the light of this abnormality, most Americans think we should wait on your nomination. It's an illegitimate process. Most Americans think that we should wait. Today, and I appreciate you not following the news, but 90 of your fellow faculty members from Notre Dame wrote an open letter calling on you for the sake of our democracy. They didn't speak to whether you're right or left or your judicial philosophy or qualifications. They wrote an impassioned letter for the sake of our democracy. They publicly issued a statement asking that your nomination, that you withdraw from this nomination process and have it be halted until after the November election. This is not normal. And again, the overwhelming majority of Americans want to wait, but my colleagues here are not listening. And so I'm going to ask you some questions that if you had told me 5 years ago, that would be questions asked at a Supreme Court nomination hearing, I would have thought they wouldn't be possible, but unfortunately, I think they're necessary to ask you, and I hope that you'll give me direct answers. The first one, you've already spoken towards issues of racism and how you deplore it, but I want to just ask you very simply, and I imagine you'll give me a very short, resolute answer, but you condemn white supremacy, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that you said that. I wish our president would say that so resolutely, unequivocally as well. But we are at a time that Americans are literally fearful because their president cannot do that in the resolute manner in which you did. I'm sorry that question had to even be asked at this time.
Come on, man.
Here's another one.
Quit kissing her butt.
Do you believe that every president should make a commitment, unequivocally and resolutely, to the peaceful transfer of power?
Well, Senator, that seems to me to be pulling me in a little bit into this question of whether the president has said that he would not peacefully leave office. And so to the extent that this is a political controversy right now, as a judge, I want to stay out of it, and I don't want to express a view on...
Don't pull me in this
Judge,
stuff.
I appreciate what you've said about respecting our founding fathers, the originalism.
I got something to say.
It's remarkable that we're in a place right now that this is becoming a question and a topic, but I'm asking you, in light of our founding fathers,
in light
of our traditions,
in light
that everyone who serves in that office has sworn an oath,
I
where
mean,
they,
this
quote,
is
swear to
knowledge.
preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. I'm just asking you, should a president commit themselves, like our founding fathers, I think, have a clear intention, like the grace that George Washington showed, to the peaceful transfer of power? Is that something that presidents should be able to do?
Trump sit down if he loses the election?
One of the beauties of America from the beginning of the Republic is that we have had peaceful transfers of power.
Okay.
And that disappointed voters have accepted the new leaders that come into office.
Some of this light up
And
here.
that's not true in every country. And I think it is part of the genius of our Constitution and the good faith and goodwill of the American people that we haven't had the situations that have arisen in so many other countries where there have been, where those issues have been present.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you think that the president has the power to pardon himself for any past or future crimes he may have committed against the United States of America?
Well, Senator Booker, that would be a legal question. That would be a constitutional question. And so in keeping with my obligation not to give hints, previews, or forecasts of how I would resolve the case, that's not one that I can answer.
Well, I think I agree with you that it is an issue right now. Something I never thought would be an issue before, but it is an issue that our president may intend to pardon himself for future crimes or past crimes. If a president is personally responsible for several $100 million in debt while he's in office, potentially to foreign entities, do you think he has a responsibility to disclose who his lenders are, especially given the emoluments clause?
Well, Senator, there's litigation about the emoluments clause. I think it was in the Fourth Circuit. I don't know where it stands, but that clearly is an issue that's being litigated, and one present in courts is not one on which I can offer an opinion.
I think it's disturbing that we're having this conversation.
Why?
I think it's disturbing that we have a president that has brought what should be settled in the minds of most Americans. Presidents should reveal what their debts are, especially if they're to foreign nations. Presidents should not be able to pardon themselves for future crimes. Presidents should condemn white supremacy. Presidents should commit themselves to the peaceful transfer of power. Judge Barrett, you've seen a lot of my colleagues and I put up pictures of people in this room and stories we've told, and I've appreciated the way you've listened.
Now, you understood what she just said there. He asked her, should Trump, if he lose the election, commit to stepping down peacefully? And she wouldn't answer. The implications of that is that she may not want the president. And she getting ready to determine whether it's right or wrong. She won't say that it is wrong, which is a no-brainer to me. If a president gets outvoted in a democracy, they step down peacefully. And here you got a woman getting ready to sit on the highest court in the land who won't say unequivocally, boy, that's a big old word. She won't say clearly, unequivocally. Boy, we gonna go with clearly. She won't say clearly that Trump should step down peacefully if he loses the election. Do y'all understand the culture that we are living in right now? This is a woman that's getting ready to sit at the highest court of this country, and she will not commit to Cory Booker's question, should the president step down peacefully? She won't say, yeah. She act like she will shoot. If Trump loses, then y'all better get ready for the resolution, because if y'all bring something before me, I'm not sure. He might need to be violent and tell the folks that he's not going to step down. Do y'all understand the implications of what she's saying? Look, but that ain't what I want to talk to you about. Let's keep listening. Keep listening. If this thing will come and go, you know, it likes to buffer. Here we go.
It's not a stretch to understand why a lot of Americans are afraid right now. All we have to do is look at the statements and actions of my Republican colleagues, the Republican Party platform, and the president who nominated you. And even some of your own words, which have been read by my previous colleagues around the Affordable Care Act. President Trump, who nominated you for this vacancy, has not only explicitly stated that the Supreme Court should overturn the Affordable Care Act, but he promised that he would nominate a judge who would, quote, do the right thing, unlike Bush's appointee, John Roberts, on Obamacare. The president has tried to do this legislatively. He's tried to do it administratively. He's failed time and time again, but he's promised over and over again to tear down the Affordable Care Act. Meanwhile, all of my Republican colleagues on this committee, except for one, has voted to overturn the Affordable Care Act because House and Senate Republicans have tried to do it 70 times. The one Republican who did not was an attorney general who joined 20 state attorney generals who sued to overturn the Affordable Care Act. You yourself said, and now I will quote you, that Justice Chief Justice Roberts pushed the Affordable Care Act beyond its plausible meaning to save the statute. The same Chief Justice Roberts that Trump implied didn't do the right thing. And so, Judge Barrett, you have said that if you were on the court, you will hear and consider the arguments from both sides. I was actually very interested when you said that you would put your family members in the shoes of litigants on both sides. Given all that you've heard said over and over again about the intentions to tear away the Affordable Care Act, to end the Affordable Care Act, given what you've heard about the people who rely on it, given the commitment, that President Trump's to say explicitly to only appoint judges who would overturn the ACA, is it unreasonable for people to fear, putting yourself in the shoes of people, is it unreasonable for the people that have been up here in their pictures, is it unreasonable for them to fear that the ACA would be overturned if you were confirmed to the court?
Well, Senator, I want to stress to you, Senator Booker, as I've stressed to some of your colleagues today, that I am my own person. I'm independent under Article 3, and I don't take orders from the executive branch or the legislative branch.
I understand that. I guess, can I restate my question, because I don't think you are understanding it. I'm just asking you as an act of empathy. Can you understand the fears that are exhibited by the people we put up? The two people I put up, Michelle and Barrett, I don't know what their political party is. I don't know if they're going to vote for me. I'm on the ballot. I don't know. I just know that they were people that wanted their voices to be heard because they are afraid right now and what your nomination represents. All I'm asking is, can you empathize with that? Can you understand that?
Senator, I can certainly empathize with people who are struggling. I can empathize with people who lack health care. One of the things that was so striking to me when we went to get our daughter Vivian from the orphanage in Haiti was the lack of access to basic things like antibiotics.
I'm all right. I got black children. That's what
she's saying. The fact that we had access to health care. So I can certainly empathize with all of that.
I can see your view.
With respect to the ACA, should I be confirmed, and as I've said, I would consider the issue of recusal a threshold question of law and whether to hear that case. But should I be confirmed and should I sit and hear the case, as I assured you, I would consider all the arguments on both sides. And one of the important issues in that case is whether, even if the mandate has become unconstitutional since it was zeroed out, whether it would be consistent with the will of Congress for the whole act to fall. It's a statutory question, not a constitutional one. Or whether the mandate could be severed out and the rest of the act stand. And so the task of every justice who hears this case will be to look at the structure of the statute and look at its text to determine whether it was the will of Congress when they passed the ACA.
And Judge, I apologize, especially after the good behavior that was noted. We shouldn't be talking over each other.
No, it's okay, Senator.
Slow down.
Quickly.
Sure.
I guess I just, as a guy who looks at justices, I was just asking you to express that you understand the fear that's in America right now, because you heard story after story.
He's going to get to where I want to
know if they were going to
be my point of departure. Y'all just be patient. He's going to get there. He's going to get there. But this is a pretty good question. You ought to hear this.
But I was just asking you, can you understand the fear giving a president that has said that they will put justice on there that will tear down the Affordable Care Act, thus taking away health care for millions of Americans? There is fear in our country right now. But I want to move now to earlier what Senator Durbin and you had discussed. They asked about your views on racism and the role of courts in addressing racial justice.
Right. Here we go.
I was troubled that you said that racial justice and equality, I'll quote you, or how to tackle the issue of making it better, those things are policy questions. I think that's the quote. How to tackle the issue of making it better, the racial injustice. Those things are policy questions and not for the court. The federal government's own data, and this is, I think you and I referenced this in our private conversation, which I appreciate. You said you were familiar with a lot of the data about the discrimination within our criminal justice system. For example, the U.S. Sentencing Commission shows that prosecutors are more, this is the U.S. Sentencing Commission said that prosecutors are more likely to charge black defendants with offenses that carry harsh mandatory minimum sentences than similarly situated whites. Are you familiar with that, the U.S. Sentencing Commission?
I'm not familiar with that particular.
Does that
I don't
surprise
know
you?
that one. What the?
I mean, I don't know, Senator Vicker, that seems an odd thing for me to express an opinion out. As you
I'm not asking, these are facts. These are just facts.
And as you and I am not familiar with that study, as you and I discussed, I am aware that there is evidence and that there have been studies of systemic racism or implicit bias in the justice system. So I am aware of that issue. I was not aware.
You're aware of evidence that there is implicit racial bias?
I am aware that there have been studies showing that implicit bias is present in many contexts, including in the criminal justice system.
Okay. I'm just going to read some of the other statistics because I think they're really important, and this is independent data from the U.S. Sentencing Commission.
Exactly
Black defendants, again,
but he's
compared
getting there.
with similarly situated white defendants who are subject to 3-strike sentencing enhancement at a significant higher rate, which on average added 10 years to sentences. You're not familiar with that study?
I'm not familiar with that study.
Do such cases come before the Seventh Circuit?
And she the one that done
The
it.
3 strikes cases?
She the judge. She don't notice. She
Are
done
you talking
seen
about the 3 strikes?
people of African
the prison
descent
litigation
more
reform
harshly
act cases
than
where they're
white
struck
folk.
out, or are you talking about?
I'm asking cases in the criminal justice system that relate to racial bias. Do they come before the court?
So certainly we have discrimination cases. Certainly there are 1983 cases or Title VII cases.
I would imagine so. And in your research for those cases, you familiarize yourself with a lot of the data on the discrimination within the system?
That, we familiarize ourselves with the arguments the parties make and the information that they put in the record. And
Yes.
in some cases, I have had parties submit, or it's submitted in the district court technically and then made part of the record.
And so I just want to be clear. Do you believe that there is, in fact, implicit racial bias in the criminal justice system?
Well,
Just a yes or no question. Do
This
you
is where
believe,
she's going.
in fact, that there is implicit racial bias in
This
the
is
criminal
what they.
justice
This is
system?
how they dilute.
Senator, it'd be hard to imagine a system, a criminal justice system as big as ours, not having any implicit bias in it.
So is that, yes?
Senator,
See.
yes.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's how they dilute us. They lump us with everybody else. Instead of us being people of African descent that recognizes our heritage and ties us to the land from which we come, they want to talk about people of color. Well, people of color can be anybody. We got color. In fact, we got the most color of humankind that walks the face of the earth. But we don't want to be known by our color. We want to be known by our land. Land is the economic base of existence in this world. Don't come talking about our color. Should we be a whole bunch of colors? Some of them be out there. They be purple. No, I jest. And see, if you ain't got a sense of humor, you ain't got no business. Listen to me. Because some things just funny to me. And there are some brothers and sisters out there that is blue-black. And then there are some brothers and sisters out there so light that they damn near white. So don't no. There's too many colors. There's too many colors in between the spectrum of blue-black and damn near white. Now, and we are not ashamed of our color. We love our color. Our color looks good when it looks back to us. But that's not our identity. That's our description. Our identity is tied to the land. It's the land that you need to sustain yourself. And I done got off, boy, y'all done got me off on a track, because this ain't where I'm going. But it needs to be said. Look, I want, and the point that I was making, let me bring it full circle, is this woman has deleted the existence of racial bias within the justice system by saying, well, I don't know anything this big that wouldn't have it. Why does the system have to be biased against people of African descent? That's not a natural flow of things. People make that. And so she's acting like it's a natural flow of things, that if you in America and you so big, then you gonna have your system, the way you run it now, not people up in there, but the way you run it, your system, it's gonna have some racial bias in it. That's. She won't commit that if Trump loses, that he should step down without being violent. She says that if there's a organization in America that's large enough, then you can bet that the way it runs itself is going to have racial bias. And this is the woman that they're getting ready to sit on the Supreme Court justice. Let's see if we can't get some more out of her. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I think that in our large criminal justice system, it would be inconceivable that there wasn't some implicit bias.
See?
Okay. Over the last 2 years, about 121 of President Trump's judicial nominees to the federal court have said unequivocally that there is implicit racial bias within the justice system, quite clearly. I'd like to turn to an opinion you wrote last year about race discrimination, Smith versus Illinois Department of Transportation.
I think it's
the case involved an African-American traffic patrol officer who had been fired from the Illinois Department of Transportation. This employee claimed that he had been subjected to hostile work environment and that the supervisor called him the N-word. But you ruled that the employee had failed to make the case that he had been fired in retaliation for his complaints about race discrimination.
Now watch this.
And now you acknowledged that, quote, and I'm going to quote you now, the N-word is an egregious racial epithet, but you went on to insist that the employee couldn't, quote, win simply by proving that the N-word was uttered at them.
Now listen to that.
And that he failed to show that his supervisor's use of the N-word against him, quote, altered the conditions of his employment and created a hostile or abusive working environment. And you said that even based on his own subjective experience, this black employee had, quote, no evidence that his supervisors were lashing out at him because he was black.
Hold on. Now she done wrote. This is what she done wrote. And watch what she say. I mean, she's slick. And I'm gonna break it down for you, cause you know that silver tongue will tell that lie and it will sound like the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt naked truth. But this woman lying, and I'm gonna break it down so that you understand the system, the justice system, and what you go before. At this point, listen to it. But now she done already wrote on a race discrimination case that if a brother is in the workplace and somebody called him the N-word, then that is not prima facie evidence on its face that the work environment is hostile. Lord, give me a break. Listen, but she's slick. I'm telling you how she gonna try to wheedle out this. But I'm what Al Sharpton say, gotcha. Look. But I want you to listen. Listen.
To have to make this point at all, but even a staunch conservative like Justice Kavanaugh, in my questioning of him, spoke to the obvious harm here in a way that you don't seem to. He wrote in a Court of Appeals case that, quote, being called the N-word by a supervisor suffices by itself to establish a racially hostile work environment. And you disagreed with that. Why do you believe that the law recognizes the harm that is inflicted on a black person in this country when they are called that word by their work supervisor, or by anyone really for that matter, and all the history dredged up in that word, centuries of harm? Why do you believe differently than Justice Kavanaugh?
Well, Senator Booker, that opinion does not take a position different than Justice Kavanaugh. It expressly was written very carefully to leave open the possibility that one use of that word would be sufficient to make out a hostile work environment claim. The problem was that in that case, the evidence that the plaintiff had relied on to establish the hostile work environment involved other, he was driving the wrong way down a ramp, and then expletives were used, not the N-word. And the N-word was used after his termination had already begun. And he didn't argue under clear Supreme Court precedent. I didn't make up the objective-subjective element. Under clear Supreme Court precedent, both are required. And he didn't say that it altered the terms of, that's not how he pled or made his case. And it was a unanimous panel decision.
See, that's the point.
Wrong, but
that's the point I want to be my point of departure, even though I didn't depart it a little bit before. See, she's saying legally, because he did not raise the argument correctly, how the law says that you're supposed to raise the argument. She ruled that him being called a nigger in the workplace, being cussed out because he was driving the wrong way on a ramp, and being fired because he said, "Hey, you don't need to talk to me like that. You got to talk with me with respect like you talk to everybody else." But because he wanted some respect, they was taking him through discharge, through firing him. And he sued them to say that his firing was racially motivated, because that in this workplace, when he's going through the firing process, his supervisor calls him a nigger. She's saying because it happened during the time that he was getting ready to be fired, that anything going prior to that, the environment was all right. And she said that's how the law says that you got to plead this thing. If you don't plead and say that him calling me a nigger was just expressed at that time, but it's been displayed all the way through the picture. He ain't said it, but he treated me like a nigga, which is more powerful. Now I'm telling you, he done finally said it, and you want to say because he didn't say it when he was treating me like a nigga, that the environment was not hostile. And the tragedy of this is probably the brother was dependent on a lawyer. So the lawyer who is supposed to not only know the letter of the law, but also the process of the law, he done fell down on the process. And because he fell down on the process, she's saying that even though, you were in a hostile environment, you didn't argue it right, you didn't present it to me right, you didn't say the right words to me, and so I ruled against you. I said that your environment wasn't hostile just because they called you a nigger. What's wrong with you? Nigger is what she just said. And I wanted to break that down for you because see, they will let injustice reign. And I wish Cory Booker had followed up and asked her, look, okay, so you tell me that it's legal for a person who has been discriminated against because of his race. It's all right to do that. It's all right for the court to let that go because he didn't say it to you like you wanted said. You're going to let an injustice go. And let me even, all right, let's say it's legal. That she's saying is legal for her to do that. She's saying that the law allows her to do that. She don't say that the law says that she has to do that. But the law does allow her to do that. And with the law allowing her to do that, yeah, okay. It's legal, but is it just? Because the law puts parameters on how something should be said, and you know, even with the parameters not being met, that an injustice has taken place. A man has been discriminated against because of his race. They done created a hostile environment, whereas that he got to run around there and be the nigga in the crowd. Nigga this, nigga this. God damn it, can't you get it right, nigga? And she's saying that he should be all right being subjected to that kind of behavior because his lawyer didn't argue it the way the law said it's supposed to be argued. He didn't write the words that the law said that it was supposed to be written. See, this is sometimes why them lawyers, you think that you got somebody on your team and they'll show you some stuff. And see what she done said is her lawyer, his lawyers, his legal representation was supposed to know how to argue that point so that he can win, but because he didn't, she allowed an hostile working environment be racially discriminatory, and it's all right for them white folks to call anybody they want that is of African descent a nigga. America's sick. And see, this is what happened. And I know this firsthand. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of it, but I'm gonna come back and revisit this because I want y'all to understand that this is what's happening to my son, Kofi. And I'm gonna delineate the latest filing and play it right back to hear how this woman is telling you that they use the process to do something that is legal, knowing all the time that it's not just. I'm gonna get back with you, and I'm gonna put it into focus for you. You've been listening to Elder Ajabu, your host for After Naked Truth. You're listening to the most honest man that you can listen to. Boy, I ain't gonna be telling you no lies, not knowingly. And I can do that because I'm unbought, unbossed, and unafraid of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the butt naked truth. Y'all stay tuned for part 2. I'ma be facking. All right, peace.